Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As the U.S.-Israel war on Iran enters its sixth week, President Trump's warning he'll bomb Iranian power plants and bridges by Tuesday if Iran does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump's threats, which would constitute war crimes, came in a profanity-laced Truth Social post on Easter Sunday, in which the president wrote, quote, "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah," President Trump wrote, using the word. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Naval Command said in a social media post overnight, the Strait of Hormuz, quote, "will never return to its former state, especially for America and Israel," unquote. Just this morning, Iranian state media is reporting Majid Khadami, the intelligence chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was killed in a joint U.S.-Israeli strike. Iran's Fars news agency also reports the U.S.-Israeli coalition struck the South Pars petrochemical facility linked to the world's largest natural gas field, accounting for 70 to 80% of Iran's gas supply. In Israel, an Iranian missile hit a residential building in Haifa, killing at least 4 people. Iran's retaliatory attacks across the Gulf continue, with power, water desalination, and oil plants hit in Kuwait and an oil facility targeted in Bahrain. Separately, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he's revoked the U.S. residency of the niece and grandniece of the late Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. Meanwhile, U.S. Navy SEALs on Saturday rescued the Air Force colonel whose F-15E aircraft was shot down over Iran on Friday. It's the first confirmed loss of an American warplane over Iranian territory since the war began. It comes as residents of Mashhad are reporting difficulty breathing due to chemical pollution from U.S. and Israeli bombardment of the city's petrochemical factories Saturday. Iran says the strikes on the Mashhad petrochemical zone killed 5 people and wounded 170 others. On the same day, at least 1 person was killed in a projectile strike near the Bushehr nuclear power plant in southwest Iran. The U.S.-based human rights activist news agency says over 3,500 people have been killed in Iran since the war erupted, including at least 244 children. This is Kariyun Haddad, a resident of Tehran.
They threatened a lot. Now, the infrastructure they threatened, they first gave a 5-day deadline, then a 10-day deadline, meaning there's still no news. They haven't been able to do anything. We defend our country. It's not like we want to abandon our country. Now, it's true that some people are with different coverings. I myself don't have a complete hijab, but I will never hand over my homeland to a people who are strangers to our country.
Israeli strikes across Lebanon Sunday killed at least 39 people as Israeli troops pushed deeper into southern Lebanon. Israel's ordered the expansion of its so-called buffer zone from the Litani River to areas north of the Zafrani River, displacing about 1/5 of Lebanon's population. Since Israel launched its war against Hezbollah on March 2nd, more than 1,400 people have been killed in Lebanon, including 126 children. This is Jamaat Salim Farhan, who's now homeless after Israeli strikes on Tyre left his neighborhood in ruins.
Someone who can barely afford their daily bread can't even buy a loaf, and then a plane comes and strikes? For what reason? Just because I'm sitting on my land? I will not leave. This is our land, and we will not give it up.
In Gaza, an Israeli drone fired 2 missiles at a group of civilians in Gaza City Sunday, killing 4 people. According to Palestinian health officials, the Gaza Health Ministry reports Israel's killed more than 700 people since last October's so-called ceasefire. On Sunday, Palestinians held a funeral in Gaza City for those killed in the Israeli airstrike.
You leave home and neither you nor your children are safe. Everyone says goodbye to the other before stepping foot outside the house, whether one is going out for errands, school, looking for water, looking for a livelihood. You tell me about a ceasefire, calm, entry of aid, opening markets. All of these are lies, 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 and ink on paper, if there is paper in the first place.
Israeli police forcibly dispersed an anti-war protest in Tel Aviv Saturday, arresting 17 people, even after Israel's High Court ruled the demonstration could proceed. Hundreds of Israelis gathered to protest the government's war on Iran, with the court permitting a rally of more than 600 people. Police still moved to break up the protests, citing Iranian missile threats, and remove protesters from the square. Protests also took place in Haifa and Jerusalem. We'll go to Tel Aviv to speak with an organizer of Saturday's anti-war protests in Israel. We'll talk to activist Alon Green, who was arrested. We'll speak to him just before he goes to court. Iranian intelligence agents arrested prominent human rights lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh at her home in Tehran. Her daughter, Merave Khandan, confirmed on Thursday. 64-year-old Sotoudeh is renowned for defending activists, opposition politicians, and women prosecuted for removing their headscarves, and has been imprisoned multiple times. She was recently sentenced to 33 years in prison and 148 lashes in 2019. She was out on bail for health reasons at the time of her arrest. Her husband, Reza Khandan, also a well-known activist, is currently held in Tehran's Evin prison. The University of Washington has demoted an Iranian-American international studies professor after he criticized U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran and condemned Israeli settler colonialism. Arya Fani will remain an associate professor at the UW-Jackson School of International Studies, but will no longer serve as director of its Middle East Center. He told the Seattle Times, quote, "There's a chilling effect on not just my academic freedom, but that of my colleagues. Anyone who dares to speak out against the war and against aggression," he said. In Louisiana, federal immigration agents entered the Fort Polk military base and detained the wife of an Army staff sergeant just days after their wedding. 22-year-old Annie Ramos was born in Honduras and brought to the United States as a toddler. In late March, she married 23-year-old Matthew Blank in a ceremony in Houston as Blank prepares for an overseas deployment. In Texas, a lawsuit alleges a 3-year-old girl separated from her mother after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border was sexually abused in a foster home where she'd been placed by immigration officials. The girl's father says he tried unsuccessfully for months to be reunited with his daughter. He says he only learned of the abuse after he filed a habeas petition in federal court. In Wisconsin, federal immigration agents jailed the president of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee after accusing him of lying on his green card application. Salah Sassour is a Palestinian-born 53-year-old who has lived in the United States since 1993. He became a lawful permanent resident nearly 30 years ago. The U.S. accuses him of failing to disclose a conviction by the Israeli armed forces when he was a teenager living in the occupied West Bank. Sarsour says he never understood the charges the Israeli military presented against him in Hebrew and that he was tortured in Israeli custody. The Muslim Legal Fund of America is representing Sarsour in court. In a statement, the group said, quote, "It's difficult to believe that DHS's position now is not rooted in a violation of his First Amendment right to speak out about the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank," unquote. President Trump has proposed cutting tens of millions of dollars of funding to the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, while privatizing security screenings at smaller airports. Trump's proposal, detailed in the White House's 2027 budget proposal, comes as the ongoing partial government shutdown at the Department of Homeland Security is now in its 8th week. The TSA was created in 2001 after private airport security contractors failed to prevent the 9/11 attacks, which saw hijackers carry box cutters, mace, and knives through metal detectors. President Trump is asking Congress for $152 million to reopen Alcatraz as a high-security federal prison. The request appears in the White House's proposed fiscal year 2027 budget and would cover the first year of cost to rebuild the prison. Alcatraz closed in 1963 due to high operating costs and has been a national park since 1972. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi said, quote, "Rebuilding Alcatraz into a modern prison is a stupid notion that would be nothing more than a waste of taxpayer dollars and an insult to the intelligence of the American people," she said. Burkina Faso's military ruler has called on people in his nation to reject democratic rule, telling a state broadcaster, quote, "We must tell the truth. Democracy isn't for us," unquote. The interim president, Ibrahim Traoré, seized power in a 2022 military coup, toppling another coup regime that overthrew a democratically elected government just 8 months earlier. Traoré previously promised democratic elections in 2024 before extending his rule until 2029. Speaking to reporters last week, he said, quote, "Wherever Western powers try to establish democracy in the world, it's always accompanied by bloodshed," unquote. A report from Human Rights Watch accuses Burkina Faso's military and its allied militias of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity for participating in violence that's killed more than 1,800 civilians while forcibly displacing tens of thousands. And in Colorado, about 3,800 workers at the world's largest meat processing company are returning to work following the first major labor strike in the U.S. meatpacking industry in over 40 years. Members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 7 walked off the job in mid-March to protest unfair and dangerous labor conditions at the JBS plant in Greeley. They're looking to address low wages, a lack of personal protective gear, and discrimination against the slaughterhouse's majority immigrant workforce. The union agreed to call off the strike after JBS agreed to a new round of contract talks set to resume on Thursday. To see our coverage of JBS, go to democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.